The disciples came to Jesus with a question. Master, is it lawful to put away your wife for any cause? Because Moses said we could do that. And I can still hear Jesus reply in Matthew chapter 19, verse 3. He says, in the beginning it was not so. He who made them man and woman made them to be together forever. He says, however, Moses gave you a bill of divorcement because of the hardness of your heart. In other words, Jesus was saying that the only reason that Moses allowed divorce, the only reason that God himself actually allowed divorce was because of the hardness of the heart. What does that mean? It means, number one, divorce was never part of God's plan when he put man and woman together. The idea truly was till death do us part. The idea truly was that a man and a woman would so blend, the two would become one. And the thought of living without this person, this special person, would be unbearable. And actually, there are couples who have lived long, happy marriages. And the wife dies today and the husband dies next week. Because it's as though a part of him was missing. That's the ideal. Yet, let's be honest, marriages crash and go on the rocks almost every day. It has come to the point where when I see a wedding, I'm fearful, I'm tense, I'm wondering, will they make it? We've all been following Harry and Meghan, who just got married. I looked at the wedding, beautiful, she's smiling, he's smiling, and you say, what love, what happiness. And as I'm looking at Harry and Meghan, I'm thinking about Diana and Charles. It was the same thing, flamboyant wedding and all that joy for the wedding to crash, for the marriage to crash. What causes a couple to start off with such hope, such expectation, such love and passion and desire, to even say those vows, until death do us part, in sickness and in health, for richer or for poor? What causes this same couple, who had eyes only for each other, who could not keep their hands off of each other, who thought, I can't live without you, to one day look at each other with anger, with resentment, sometimes even with hate, and say, I'm out of here. I've also seen bitter divorces, and you cannot believe that these two people once loved each other. Jesus says the reason for divorce is the hardness of the human heart. The hardness of the heart represents the natural stubbornness and self-centeredness of our humanity. Because let's be honest, when I get married, I may say I love my wife, and I really mean that. But what I'm really saying is I love me. And she makes me happy when she's with me. It is because of how she makes me feel I want to marry her. But guess what? She married me for the same reason, because of how I made her feel, the expectations that she carried in her heart in terms of what marriage with me would be. And when you take two self-centered, selfish people and place them in the same room to live together, we begin to have sparks. That is when we begin to have explosions. That is where the problems come, because I want what I want, when I want it, how I want it. She wants what she wants, how she wants it, when she wants it, or even if she wants it. Now, when you have two people having their own desires and wanting their own desires, then it's a win-lose situation. I win and you lose, or sometimes I have to lose and you win. But who wants to lose? Everybody wants to win. So marriage becomes, as it were, the great negotiation, where we negotiate each other's needs, where I am willing to give a bit and you're willing to give a bit, where I am willing to allow you to have your way sometimes, where you are willing to let me have my way sometimes, or even other times where we compromise and we both get part of what we want. For instance, let us suppose it's football season. I like football. I like the Super Bowl. My wife, not really. No, let's be honest. If it's Super Bowl Sunday, I want to go with my friends and look at Super Bowl at my friend's home, because when I'm there, we eat, we laugh, we discuss the game, and a lot of testosterone. But she doesn't really want to go there. She wants me to stay home with her. You could imagine in a situation like that, if I stayed home, she's happy, but I am not, because I want to be with my friends. If I go with my friends, I am happy, but she feels left out. Imagine that. He preferred to be with his friends than to be with me. So that's a win-lose situation. And in that situation now, a loving wife may say, sweetheart, you go with your friend. Genuinely allow him to go. Or she may decide, I don't like football, couldn't care less who wins the Super Bowl, but you know what? I'm going to go with my husband because I like to be with him. In that case, there's a negotiation, there's a compromise, where we both get something. I get to be with my friends and to look at Super Bowl. She gets to be with her husband. And who knows, she may find one or two other wives who are also there, who didn't care to be there. And the ladies would then maybe talk about Martha Stewart or something. But the point is, in every marriage, maturity means that we are willing to compromise. We are willing to negotiate. Because ultimately, if we don't do that, we are following the hardness of our own heart. Marriages that end in divorce because each one decided, I'm going to stick with what I want and I'm not moving. Jesus says it is the hardness of the heart that leads to divorce. We are all stubborn in some ways. We all believe we are right in many ways. And we all want to be right always. But guess what? What do you think happens if I'm willing to stake everything on my being right, on me getting my rights, on things going my way, and you decide to do the same thing? There's a rip, there's a tearing of the marriage fabric that begins that slow, painful process that leads us apart, and eventually it ends in divorce. So think about it. Almost every marriage problem could be solved if it were not for the hardness of the heart. Every marriage could go on to 50, 60, 70 years of marriage if it were not for the hardness of the heart. So let me share this with you. The next time there's a problem, there's an issue, and you're really angry, you think your husband was wrong, you think your wife was wrong, stop. Examine your own self. Examine your own presuppositions. See where you have contributed to the problem. Be sure that you are not harboring stubbornness just because of your ego or your pride. I would even say this. Take a day or two. A lot of times, the thing that you feel so angry about today, that you think, man, I've got to deal with this thing today. One night passes by next day, you can't even remember what it was. So I'm saying, if you take some time to cool down, you may find that that issue was not such a big thing after all. Take a moment and ask yourself, is there another way I could be looking at this thing? Is it possible that my wife is right? Is it possible that I am wrong? Is there another way to look at this thing, to work at this thing? Or is this a situation maybe I could just let it slide? Oh, that's a wonderful thing in marriage, to let it slide. There is no happy marriage. There's no long-lasting marriage where either one or the other, both, have not let it slide. Forgiveness is the currency that builds a marriage. Where I'm willing to forgive you for what you've done, for the hurt and the pain. But beyond forgiveness is that attitude of, you know what? I'm going to pick my battles. I don't have to fight every battle. I don't have to get everything I want. You know what? I'm going to let it slide. That should be our kind of watchword in marriage. You know what? I'm going to let it slide. And only if it's a principle that's being violated, only if after you have decided to let it slide, and 1 day passes, 2 days pass, and it still hurts, it still digs you deep, or that behavior continues and there seems to be no change, then you need to confront in the most loving way possible, in the least confrontational way possible. I keep thinking about Jesus' words, but for the hardness of the heart. If you want to have a long-lasting marriage, if you want to have a happy relationship with your spouse, ask God to soften that heart. Take away stubbornness, pride, selfishness, and to give you a spirit of negotiation, of compromise, of forgiveness, of letting it slide. Remember, every marriage could be a happy marriage if we get rid of the hardness of the heart.